This podcast is not intended to provide any investment advice. The opinions expressed here by either the hosts or guests do not necessarily reflect the views of PSA, Collectors Holdings, or any of their affiliates. Any discussion of collectible values in the past or present is not a guarantee of future performance.
Hello and welcome back to the PSA Pod. I'm Jack Archer alongside Steve Sloan. We have a slightly smaller team today, just me and Steve, and we're keeping it streamlined. Stock up, stock down.
Let's get into it, Jack. This is good. It's kind of a dreary day here in Southern California, but let's talk hobby to lift our spirits. This is going to be good.
First up is Justin Fields. My guy just had the most rushing yards by a QB in a game ever. From weeks 1 to 4, he went from QB 31 in fantasy football to QB 1 in weeks 5 through 9. He has a higher QBR than Joe Burrow, Brady, Trevor Lawrence, Cousins, Murray, Garoppolo, Stafford, Tannehill, Aaron Rodgers, who has the same amount of NFC championships as Rex Grossman, by the way, Russell, Let's Ride, Wilson, Goff, Wentz, Mac Jones, and Zach Wilson. It's an incredible turnaround and so much fun to watch.
It is. I was filling out my draft King lineup this weekend, and I was like this close to picking Justin Fields instead of Justin Herbert. And of course, I went with Herbert because I went with the safer, what I thought play. Of course, Fields ended up outperforming him. But then I'm looking back on that and thinking maybe this has a wider, deeper meaning for the hobby. The momentum is at Fields' back right now. It's funny. We were talking about the patience that the Bears fans have. This season isn't necessarily a make or break for Fields. This is about foundation. This is about him growing as a player, the Bears building around him. And that means that there's going to be that momentum that's behind him right now, I think, has a longer track on which to run. It's funny. We were looking at his market cap for his Silver Prism last week, right? It was around like $350,000 for PSA 10. I looked again this morning, $500,000. So it's already up like another $150,000 just over about a week.
That's insane. Yeah, I mean, it's not just like his market cap for his Prism Silver. His Select XRC is up 85% in the last month. It's now at $612. A really, really impressive rise. And he's charismatic. He's fun, and he plays the game almost like backyard football. The way that he can take off and throw bombs like he does, it's great. It's great for the hobby too. It's also great for our usual co-host Ryan Green, who is at this point, like a super collector of Justin Fields. I think he has over like 60 PSA graded Justin Fields rookie cards. So that must be extremely fun for him.
Yeah, I think he should be getting nervous that it's going to get more expensive for him to add to that collection. I mean, I think that with all the other names in the hobby class for 2021, that Fields wasn't, was crowded out a little bit by the Mac Jones or the Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance guys. But at this point, with the performance on the field, it's looking like Fields is going to emerge, at least through this season, along with perhaps Lawrence as the true winner out of that class.
The ceiling is so high, and he's so marketable on top of everything. There's a lot to like about Justin Fields and Justin Fields cards. All right, next up we have none other than King Geno himself, Geno Smith, tearing it up in Seattle. Steve, how are you feeling about Geno Smith cards?
Well, I think this is a great story for collectors, and I'm going to put aside all you investors out there, the people that maybe want to ride the momentum of a player's value. This is about the perfect intersection of success on the field for the player and accessibility of the cards themselves. So if you look at Geno Smith, you can get into his 2013 Topps Chrome rookie card, PSA 10, like a refractor, a desirable card for around $30, which is like nothing basically. So there's a lot of factors that go into collecting. We do it with our collectability over replacement. This is like a nice sweet spot for collectors who are fans of the Seahawks, fans of Geno Smith's story. It's super accessible right now to get into Geno Smith.
He's in that sweet spot where he has Topps cards and Panini cards. So there's some really, really beautiful cards out there. The one I love from 2013 is the 86 of Jerry Rice rookie year throwback Chrome cards they have. Huge fan of that. They actually have a gold refractor out of 50. Definitely something to take a look at. But yeah, I love this idea. It reminds me a lot of our friend and colleague Josh Johnson at Card Ladder. He recently went deep diving on Todd Gurley cards and picked up a lot of just incredible Todd Gurley cards for not a lot of money. I feel like you can kind of do the same with someone like Geno, pure collecting at its best.
You absolutely can. And back in 2013, I think there were only 12 parallels off the base. So it's not like a super extensive list of parallels you have to hunt down if you want to complete the rainbow. You got the pink, the blue, the sepia, a couple others, but this is really accessible not only from the price standpoint, but from just the product standpoint. And for that reason, I'm going to give Gino my stock up of the week for sure.
2013 Select is, in my opinion, the best Select design in its entire run. It can kind of be hit and miss, but for 2013, that design just really, really lands. Next up, we have Donovan Mitchell, stock up. This guy, the Cavs have won 8 straight games. He's literally looking like Spider-Man. Very impressive. 33 points last night against the Lakers, 25 points the game before, 38 points before that, 41 points before that. He's been incredible. How are you feeling about Donovan Mitchell right now?
Is there a better way to ingratiate yourself into a new fan base than by going on 8 consecutive victories, by having career high stats across the board? I think Donovan Mitchell really took to heart Shaq's criticism from last year, or was that a couple of years ago? I'm not even sure, but I did stumble across the YouTube clip where Shaq basically called him out for not living up to his potential. Well, he's doing that this year, which is a great way not only to win over fans in Cleveland, but to really put himself on the map for the entire Eastern Conference. It's going to be a battle. And that victory last week on Wednesday against the Celtics was a nice maybe preview into what we might expect with Tatum battling Donovan Mitchell for the foreseeable next couple of years.
They're both in that 2017 rookie class. Gorgeous prism cards from that set. But yeah, he's been really impressive. Clearly, my words on a very specific niche hobby podcast definitely landed in his inbox somehow and motivated him to do what he's doing. It's been really, really impressive. And shout out Darius Garland, too, who's been incredible as well. The Cavs are a very fun team, and their ceiling feels so high with young guns like Evan Mobley and Garland joining Mitchell on that starting 5.
They're pretty accessible on price as well. 2017 Donovan Mitchell PSA 10 Prism base, last sold around $66. Not incredibly high priced. It is a high pop card. There's over 5,000 of those in PSA 10. You might look at his silver, which has a pop closer to $575, which last sold around $408. So depending on your preference there, Donovan Mitchell 2017 Prism is a place to start. I would say, though, you might want to wait a little bit. Like, you never want, unless you have the most extreme case of FOMO to get in today, maybe wait till the win streak's over, wait a little bit on his career stats, maybe cooling off a little bit if you can.
All right, next up for stock up, Panini 1-1 basketball. Just released a handful of days ago. It's been such a fun product to watch on all the breaking platforms. It's all over Instagram. But essentially, it is a 2-card rip, and every box includes an on-card auto and then either a base card or an insert. These include the downtowns, which are incredibly popular within the hobby, timeless moments, which are just terrific, and new this year, a noir sneaker insert, sneaker spotlight, which has been a really
Super
popular insert for many years now, and now it's included in Panini 1-1. How are you feeling about Panini 1-1 basketball, Steve?
This is like a spectator sport for the hobby. Like, this is speed breaking at its finest. You get straight to it. You don't have to wait for all the packs to get open and ripped. You just get straight to the hits, which I always like, especially if you're waiting in line for the guy in front of you to get done so you can get to your product. But in all seriousness, love the idea that you can just get straight to really what are awesome design on-card autographs with this product. So even though I'm on a personal hiatus from breaking right now due to an exorbitant amount of money that I've spent over the last 3 months on all the new releases, I am really intrigued by this product and will definitely be watching it as a spectator.
Yeah, it's been so much fun to watch. The base cards are wonderful too. In the 2019 was the first year that they did Panini 1-1 basketball. Previously, it was just Panini 1, and it was an exclusive product of football. So 2019 was the first year they did this. The base card for Zion, he's wearing I think he's wearing like the City Connect jerseys for the Pelicans, and he's going up for a dunk. It is a beautiful photo, and in my opinion, his best looking rookie card by a country mile. All right, and we have to give a quick stock up shout out to my guy at the Astros game with the Jeremy Pena red refractor Bowman Chrome first, PSA graded, of course. How did that make you feel, Steve? I was ecstatic when I saw that.
As a company man, I always get giddy when I see cards in public, mainstream, and to hit the World Series like that. Of course, it was all over Instagram, Twitter afterwards. The hobby takes pride in seeing itself in the mainstream. And so for me, it just put a huge smile on my face to see a PSA graded card on national television like that in front of the world to see.
He was so exuberant and happy. Like his face while holding that card was just packed with so much emotion. And that's what sports are, and that's what cards are, and that's what collecting is. So it's cool to see it all come together on the stage as big as the World Series.
And that was before the game, right? So after the game, the card appreciated in value. Who knows how much based on the fact that Pena won the MVP. So that's just a great feeling for that gentleman to walk out of the stadium knowing hopefully that his net worth has increased through his wise choice to collect Jeremy Pena.
I really hope we see more PSA graded cards courtside, at NFL games, at baseball games, at everything in the future. It's just such a fun way to show off your fandom, and frankly, much cooler than a foam finger.
Oh, for sure. Actually, I'm going to put a challenge out there. Anyone listening, if you're a season ticket holder, if you go to games, let's see some PSA graded cards in the stands. Tag us on Instagram, tag us on Twitter. We'd love to see it. I personally will do it the next time I go to a Laker or Clippers game. I just want to see some out in the wild PSA graded cards. Is a great way to show your fandom.
We'll be back after a quick break for some stock down action.
Hey guys, Drew here, producer of the PSA Pod. I'm a big basketball collector and the bulk of my collection is modern to ultra-modern cards. If you're like me, it's a great time to submit your cards for grading as we just launched our $15 per card modern sports card bulk grading special, which is exclusive to our PSA Collectors Club members. The modern special pricing is for cards manufactured from 1996 through the present most recent releases on the market, such as Select Basketball, Topps Update Baseball, and much more. Orders must be a minimum of 10 cards with a maximum declared value of $199 with an estimated turnaround time of 120 days. Visit psacard.com/join to become a Collectors Club member today and visit psacard.com/specials for full details on this incredible deal, which is available through the end of November.
Stock down baseball cards because it's the offseason. Happens every single year. The hobby tends to be quite seasonal. And for me, I'm using this as a time to sort of see how I will attack my offseason collecting going into the 2023 season. How are you feeling about the baseball market right now? And what cards are you looking at to add to your collection right now, Steve?
Yeah, the World Series is the end point. Like once the World Series is over, we head into hobby hibernation, not just for baseball, but really pretty much across the board for the next 2 months. And this proves out in the Card Ladder 50 index, the Ultra Modern index for Card Ladder as well. Q4, the last back half of Q4, the last just end of the year is just a sleepy period. And so for me, it's a total time to hit reset, assess what I have in my collection, look at what I want to keep, look at what I want to sell, look at where I want to build. And it's just a nice, I'll just call it quiet time. In terms of next year and looking ahead, I need to do that assessment, to be honest, but there's some names out there that you just can't ignore at this point, especially if the price is going to be a little bit suppressed because of the seasonality of collecting. The first one has to be J-Rod, just based on what he represents to baseball, not only for next year, but beyond. He's a fresh face for the entire sport.
I have a hard time believing his prices are going to go through the offseason cycle in any way, but it's incredibly exciting. I was looking at Fangraphs way too early fantasy rankings going into the 2023 season, and he was number one. The last person I could remember going from rookie year to number one overall draft pick on all the fantasy sites was Mike Trout.
Trout could be another guy that you look at. I mean, Ohtani, Trout, Bryce Harper, some of the big names that are going to be foundational players for the next couple of years, the stars of the league. If you're into those guys, that season to buy them is late Q4, meaning November, December. Once we hit January, things start to pop back up and start creeping back up as anticipation builds for spring training. You want to be in advance of that period. So if you're looking at a Hall of Fame player in the future that you want to get into, now is the right time to do that.
I'm personally looking to scoop up some more Nolan Arenado cards. My guy just had his 10th straight gold glove, which is incredible. The only other player to do that in the first 10 years of his career, Ichiro, another guy at PC. So it's kind of fun to have two people in my collection that have this two really specific but incredible accomplishment.
It's so hard from a sports fan perspective to keep yourself focused on the names outside of the sport when they're not playing, because there's so much distraction from what's going on with the NBA, what's going on with football playoffs, even FBS football playoffs. How do you do it, Jack? Like, how do you stay focused on baseball when nobody's talking about it?
You just have an obsessively curated eBay watch list. You just live and breathe this stuff. There's specific cards that are so rare and come up so infrequently that I always have my eye on. So it doesn't matter what time of year it is. If something that I'm really, really after is available, I'm going to be into it, whether it's like the beginning of the Major League Baseball season at the start of April into March, or at a kind of a dip point like we're at right now. It's exciting. There's a lot of guys like Wander Franco feels like someone whose prices are probably quite low compared to where they were at the sheer hype. And I feel like has a lot of room to grow and a lot of opportunity given his pedigree. Ohtani, of course. You mentioned Mike Trout. You mentioned Harper. Luis Robert is someone that could bounce back in a big way. I'm very, very excited to see how this offseason plays out. And of course, I can't wait for the next baseball season.
Actually, yeah, I have one name real quick before we close this segment, and that is on the vintage side. That is Dusty Baker. 1971 Topps was his rookie season. He shares his rookie card with two other guys, Don Baylor, Tom Patrichek. So if you are a Hall of Fame baseball card collector and you know that you need to add Dusty Baker, probably at some point he's going to be inducted. All the managers who are above him in career win totals also have titles and are also in the Hall of Fame. So it's a pretty good indicator that Dusty will be in the Hall of Fame one day. That would be a time to buy your Dusty Baker Hall of Fame or rookie card from 1971 to add to your Hall of Fame rookie card collection. So just a little shout out to Dusty. Is a guy that always seemed to fall short at the managerial level of that World Series title. So really happy to see him finally close it.
One of my favorite things about people that collect Hall of Famers is that they're also prospecting, but in a very different way.
Totally.
It's
That's
so
exactly
fun
right.
because it allows you to live and explore in the vintage market in some cases, but also have the thrill of prospecting as you predict like who's going to be the next Hall of Famers, especially for those fringe guys too. It's interesting. We have a colleague that he collects Hall of Famers for baseball, basketball, football, and hockey. And it's incredible the way that he attacks collecting and very impressive. All right, next up for Stock Down, it is the old guard of quarterbacks. Aaron Rodgers didn't have a great game. Tom Brady looks like he's on the way out. It feels like the league is being turned over to youth right now.
Well, it's sad for me. I'm going to start with Aaron Rodgers because you look at him as a guy who early in his career winning a Super Bowl, the career arc component was always alive. Rodgers can win another Super Bowl and what that would do to his value overall. Unfortunately, just never played out. And we can see even from this past weekend losing to the lowly Lions, throwing a couple picks right on the doorstep of the goal line there. It's just not going to happen. I hate to be the talking head kind of guy, but like I think anyone with eyeballs and who follows football sees that Rodgers is pretty much done. So the career arc element, like he's just not going to win another championship. That suppresses his values.
I'm going the other way. It wouldn't surprise me at all if the Packers make the playoffs and he goes on a giant run. He's Aaron Rodgers. He's coming off 2 back-to-back MVPs. His arm is like simply incredible. He's one of the best pure athletes I've ever seen play quarterback. I think this presents a really interesting time because in the future, people look at someone's career in its totality. They don't look at it like how they played their last year, their last 2 or 3 years. I think Aaron Rodgers, his cards are going to age incredibly well. And now is an interesting time to look at his cards because a lot of people are not looking at his cards.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I think the way to look at it is that we're way too hyper reactive within the football season. We go week to week and we make knee-jerk reactions based on what we see from any given Sunday to the next. You want to take advantage of that if you believe in the guy long-term. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Famer. His resume is impeccable. He has a Super Bowl title. So if you can capitalize on someone else's fickleness or faint of heart stature on holding Aaron Rodgers, then take advantage of it. I just don't think it's in the cards this year personally, but that doesn't mean that he won't be a long-term player to have in your collection. You talk about Hall of Fame rookie card prospecting. Yeah, you're going to need your Aaron Rodgers rookie card for that. Okay, the next guy is Brady, right? What we see happening with Brady on the field. Hey, they won this past weekend. He had another legendary comeback, right? Broke the hearts of LA Rams fans everywhere with the last-second touchdown pass. Again, it seems to happen every week. But at the same time, there's just not a lot of excitement or momentum in Tampa, even though they're playing in a pretty weak division. What are you seeing with Brady, and what's your outlook for how his cards react? He's still one of the most transacted players in all of football, if not the most.
I mean, that win wasn't really because of Brady or on the Bucs. That win was because the Rams and Matt Stafford do not look good. Their offensive line looks terrible. I think the reason people aren't excited is because that win didn't feel like a win. Much like Justin Fields' loss didn't feel like a loss. The emotion matters, and it just feels so dead on that team right now. And it's hard to get excited and hard to root for. And what was so intoxicating about Tom Brady cards, especially the last several years, is because he was a GOAT. He was the GOAT in the sport. But you also had the thrill of watching him play and potentially adding to his legacy. Michael Jordan is the GOAT of his sport, but he's been retired for many, many years. Brady's the GOAT of his sport, but he's still in. And now it feels like we're sort of losing that thrill because it doesn't feel like he's got one more in him. I do, however, really want like the Rocky music to start playing and him just like take over the league and do it one more time. But I unfortunately don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, looking at his 2000 Bowman Chrome PSA 10, the price is just continues to fall, frankly, from its highs in 2021. The question is, how low will it go? I mean, there's enough people out there that want Tom Brady, recognize his greatness, that even at a pop of 1,122 cards, there's plenty of demand given that relatively low pop for a player of his stature. So, I don't know. The question for me is it a buying opportunity for Brady or not? And I can't figure out the answer quite yet based on where he was in 2021 to where he continues to slide today. If he continues to go this route, they don't make the playoffs. His off the field issues swirl around him. I still, I guess, would fall on the side of there's still room to go in terms of the slide on value.
His iconic cards, I truly feel like you can't go wrong with like his Bowman Chrome, for instance. The cards that I would feel a little bit icky about getting into right now would be a lot of like the college uniform stuff, which still have very high prices. The stuff where he's wearing like sweatpants in like a practice jersey from some obscure brand that hasn't made a card in 20 years. That's the kind of stuff I would avoid. But man, his Bowman Chrome is like just it's so iconic. It looks so great. It's clearly like one of his best cards. Like that's something where you can't fault anybody for adding that to their collection.
And the likelihood is if you're buying it as a collector, you're holding it and you're going to be holding it for the foreseeable future. So you have less interest in the short-term turns of the market. You just have to feel good about the price. Right now it has a card ladder value in PSA 10 is 2000 Bowman Chrome of $9,000. So you're going to sit with that, hit it at $9,000. You're going to be holding it ideally for the next 5, 10, 20, 25 years. At that point, it doesn't even matter. It's more about the cash. Do you have it? Do you have to trade out of something else to free up funds for it? That's what it's more about at that point for me.
Quick question for you. I'm going to throw another $9,000 card at you. Would you rather have the Bowman Chrome Tom Brady rookie or the Mike Trout Topps Update Cognac Anniversary PSA 10 rookie?
I'd rather have the Brady. I'd rather have the Brady because of his career resume, because he's a champion. When I look at that card, I see total domination across all sports, frankly, in terms of the number of championships. Of course, Bill Russell has more, but in terms of football, Brady's the apex. For Trout, I love the guy. He's incredible. He's the player of a generation. I just don't have that same connection to Trout. How about you?
I think I'm going to have to go with the Trout, but it's incredibly close. I would be curious what our listeners would rather have between those two. That Brady card is just, it has GOAT all over it. It's iconic. But there is the refractor version. And when you have a base card, there's always that it's difficult to feel happy with it when you know that there's a better version out there. Same way, if you have a PSA 8, you want a PSA 9. You have a PSA 9, you want a PSA 10. With Trout, there's really nowhere in terms of like his pure Topps rookie card to go up from there, unless you consider the Diamond Anniversary a more appealing card visually because the population's lower on the Cognac. I love both cards, but I'm going to go Trout myself.
I don't think you can go wrong. That's the beauty of collecting. So
yeah, no wrong answers. All right, that's it for the PSA Pod. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to drop a review on iTunes. That helps us a bunch, and we sincerely appreciate it.
See you next week. Hey, maybe we get a little course going later this week, right? We gotta get Drew a mic.
We have to give Drew a mic, mostly because he's begging us to do Stock Up Bull as the resident Bull truther and super collector.
Let's hold out at least another week before we go on that.
We do a collector profile each month in PSA Magazine. We might need to do the Bull super collector. Just let it roll.
I like it. Let's do it.